morning. Woo. Hey, I want to show you a quick picture of my family. Debbie's like, show a picture of our family so they see that our kids finally grew up. We are new grandparents too. We have 3 grandchildren. So that's pretty crazy. Go ahead and put the first slide up. There you go. We come from a city called Joinville, Brazil. We've been in Brazil almost 30 years. Up top is a picture of our family. The top 3 boys up there, those are our three kids. 2 of them are married. The one on the right is not married. So if there's any young single ladies out there ready to do some prayer and fasting, I'll tell you, much is appreciated. Love to keep it in the family, yes. Down below is a picture of our church with everyone in front of it, and we were able, by a miracle, to be able to get that building. It was a condemned building, and we all just kind of came in, and we did a remodel. Every member of the church, we had kids carrying buckets of broken bricks and filling up holes and stuff. It was just an amazing time in our life, but I'm glad that part was over. And about 8 years ago, just a week or 2 before we were to come here, the next door neighbor who owns 2.5 acres, he said that he was wanting to sell his property, and he felt, he says, I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious in any way, but he said, I've been having dreams and things like that, and I feel like I'm supposed to sell the property to you guys. And we negotiated a price and got the price down. And he asked us, he goes, do you want it? And I said, yes, we do. And he goes, okay. I said, but I just need about 3 or 4 weeks to come up with to get the full down payment. I said, I have part of it, because, Christians don't lie. And part of it that we had was about $37 that we had for the down payment. And so I wasn't lying when I said that. But I'll tell you, when we came to the States, I was stressed out thinking that we had to come up with a big chunk. And we went to one of our first, we sat with Pastor James at a restaurant, and he was just asking us, hey, share something new that's happened. And I go, man, you want something really new? This guy came to us and this and that, and blah, 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 and we have $37 and da, da, da. And he goes, you know what? He goes, let LifeSong be a part of it. We'll cover your first down payment. It was like, oh my goodness. And man, I'll tell you, that got that ball rolling. Let me just show you the next slide. The next slide on the right side, the building above the red thing, that's with the gray roof. Yeah, that one. That was our current building. The red lines on the other is the thing that LifeSong helped us procure. And we had this giant property, and I was like, okay, what could we do with this property? And we were praying and this and that, and I felt very strong. We want to bring more prayer into our thing. So I said, you know what? Let's do a prayer garden. Let's do a prayer walk through the whole thing, and let's make it 1 kilometer long. Kilometer is about like almost half a mile. So people that want to do exercise could do that. And then we broke the Lord's Prayer down into 6 pieces, and then people could stop, and we're putting a bench in each of the places where people could do. And so we had this guy, and we had helped him get out of financial devastation debt that he had. And he was like, I want to give back to the church. I want to give 1 month of free labor to help build this trail thing. He says, can you, I don't quite know what you got in your mind, but what do you want this trail to look like? So I did what normal person would do. I typed on Google, Butch Art Gardens. And that's, go ahead and show that slide. That's what I said is our inspiration. And you know what? He took that and he goes, I can do that. Yeah. And so, once again, we didn't have any plants to do it with. And so, go ahead and go to the next slide. So what we end up doing is, every time we see anybody throwing plants out in the street, I just fill my car up with the plants. I take it to him, And we've been building this trail. See that little piece of the trail in that the next slide is some more of the pieces of the trail that we're trying to, and then eventually we're wanting to put like cobblestone all the way through the whole trail. And we've gotten this crazy thing that we got neighbors that are wanting to walk the trail, so we're giving them the key to the property, and they're bringing their dogs and stuff, and they're walking the property already. I don't know if it's half done or so, but that's kind of a new thing that's going on in our lives. So we're excited. We appreciate you guys' faithful giving in this house to help us so much. We appreciate it so much. I usually start with a few little slides that are a little bit funny. I only got one for you guys today, but it's an instructional slide. Sometimes people don't know the difference between the pastor and the youth pastor. And so I wanted to, come from Brazil. Maybe this is for one of you today, to help you know the difference between the pastor and the youth pastor. You just have to give them shirts, because shirts are the only way to identify between the two. I know it's not 100%. I mean, Pastor James, I ain't still sporting, a lot up there, but it's kind of funny. Go ahead and go to the next one. I lived in a house my whole life, and all of our boys have moved out, and now it's just Debbie and I don't want to cut grass anymore. So we're going to move to a small apartment. Well, over the years, we have accumulated a lot of really good stuff. How many of you have accumulated lots of good stuff over the course of your life? And so to kind of just prepare myself to make this move, I started reading a bunch of books and stuff, and I just in my devotional time, and I came across this verse, and I never looked at it this way. But the verse is this, in Proverbs 24, it says this: by wisdom a house is built, and understanding it's established. Through knowledge his rooms are filled with what? Every precious and beautiful treasure. And I started thinking about that, and I was thinking, I got a lot of rooms that are filled with a lot of unprecious and interesting junk that I maybe needed to go through a little decluttering. So I'm going to share a word this morning called decluttering. Next slide, thanks. It says this: cleaning out the space for the precious and beautiful in my life. Because it says, through knowledge, his rooms are filled with every precious and beautiful treasure. And I realized that I couldn't put so many precious and beautiful things in there because it was so filled with some of the other stuff that wasn't quite as precious and wasn't quite as beautiful. And so today we're gonna cover this. I have a verse in Hebrews 2 to add to this. Go ahead there, thank you. It says this: we should remove from our lives anything that would get in our way. It's talking about sin, but it's also talking about anything that would get in our way. Focusing our eyes on Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith. It's really interesting because it's not just decluttering, but it's also focusing our eyes on Jesus. And so today, the rest of this time, we're going to be sharing just about that. It's a common story. Go ahead and go to the next slide. It's a real common story that in the Bible that a lot of people read, and I just kind of want to break it up into three pieces and then talk just a little bit about that with the filter of thinking about decluttering. Jesus and his disciples were on their way, and he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary. It's interesting because when you see pictures, you ever see a picture of Mary and Martha, and Mary's at the feet and this and that? It's just kind of those three in the room, right? But it says Jesus and his disciples were on their way. And he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him and the disciples. So picture this. You're not just talking like 4 people in the room, maybe 5. You're talking about plus the 12, right? She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. It's interesting because she was distracted, right? And we go, oh, distracted, you shouldn't be distracted. But she was distracted by what? Preparations that had to be made. Good things. And sometimes when we think about decluttering this now, we're just thinking about, oh, we need to get rid of sin and we need to get all anything that's really bad out of our lives and this and that. But sometimes it goes way beyond that. There's things that are distracting us from what we should be looking at. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The first point is clutter makes us focus on the wrong priorities. And it's like in this case, without Jesus being there, I'm telling you, cleaning and making the food, that's something we need to do every day. Isn't that true? I mean, especially the food part. Cleaning we can put off a little bit, but the food part, you got to get that going every day. There's tons of stuff that we need to do, things that have to be done, so to speak. But what happens is when Jesus is in the house, it's so easy to be looking at all this stuff like this. And it's like, oh yeah, we got all kinds of cleaning and stuff to do. And oh yeah, Jesus is here somewhere. And remember, these are not just things we need to just take that to the dump. No, it's like these are still good things, but our focus is what we're having problems with because we have the wrong priorities. Go ahead and go to the next slide. In this book, it's the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. This lady's talking about basically in Sweden, I guess, when you turn 60, you're supposed to do a big clean out of your house and so that you don't just give all your junk to your kids. And it's like, man, that's a good principle for all of us, huh? Some of us have got junk in our life that if we don't make some decisions in it and get rid of them now, we will pass that on to the generation, to the next generation, and to the third and fourth generation. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so it's like there are things that we need to get rid of our life, and we say, I'm going to stop this right here, right now. This lady, she says this quote in her book. Next slide. She says, decluttering is removing the non-essentials so that we can focus on what truly matters, which is right here, right? So we're getting rid of this stuff not because it's necessarily bad. We're getting rid of this stuff because it's keeping this in the focus. Make sense? Next part. She came to him, this is Martha, she came to him and asked, when we say she came to him and asked, she's asking a question, right? So in this passage here, she's got one question. Imagine you got one question to ask Jesus. What would that one question be? Be interesting, right? Something worth thinking. I was thinking all week about if I had one question to ask, what would I ask Jesus? Let's see what Martha decided to use her one question as. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care? Uh-huh. See, this is what happens when we got clutter in our lives. We ask the wrong question. Go ahead, next slide. Clutter makes us ask the wrong question. Jesus, don't you care that my sister's left me to do the work all by myself? And then we get pushy. Tell her to help me. It's kind of funny, huh? I just tell Jesus what to do today. You know, I'm kind of upset that he's saying he's all just and all this. This is not justice right here going on. This is not fair going on. How many of you would agree it's not fair that she was doing all the work? Is that true? It's true. It was not fair. And it's like fairness is important. Is fairness important? Yes. But when Jesus is in the house, the most important thing isn't that fairness. Next slide. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. It's really interesting that this chosen what is better, it was time with the Lord. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Clutter makes us make wrong choices. And it's so easy for us to trade out things for people. And it's like there was an opportunity here for a relationship with Jesus in a way that few in the world had a chance to experience. Imagine face to face with Jesus. Imagine a chance to ask questions of Jesus. Imagine a chance to sit at the feet of Jesus. And because of clutter, she was distracted. And that's exactly what happens with us. And it's like, I know down deep I'm basically kind of a good person, and I try to make church and God and devotions and stuff an important part of my life. But it's so often, isn't it, that we start to get distracted with so much that's going on in our lives. And this is what ends up happening to us. It's like, oh, I got to wash and dry the stuff for the guests. Oh, I need to buy, there's no cucumbers at the grocery store. I need to make dinner for all these. There's 14. I only invited Jesus and 14 came. What do I do about that? And it's like, this is exactly what ended up happening. And look at, Jesus is off in the corner. And that's what we do with our lives, not because we want to put Jesus in the corner, not because we want to make Jesus a little box. We do that because we start filling our lives with other things, and every once in a while we need to step back and we need to declutter. I went through all my stuff, and I wanted to bring it to you just so I could pull it out. Go ahead and go to the next slide. One of the things I found was like 800 ballpoint pens. Finally, I figured out where they were, you know? Now go back to the pins. Go one back. There you go. Declutter the things in your life that aren't working. I got all these pins. I laid them down, and I got a piece of paper, and I told those ballpoint pins, I told those pins, you got one chance to make a mark. Because my garbage was right here on this side. And I'll tell you, I gave it one swipe, and if that baby didn't start producing, it was in the garbage, right? I got that down. You know, there are things in our lives that just aren't working that we're just hanging on to. And it's like, we have giftings and things that maybe a long time ago you felt like using for this and that you had a calling to do or an inkling in that direction. But times change, and you've changed and this and that. And so what ends up happening is we hang on to some of these things. We need to find out what we're gifted at, where we're supposed to serve, and we need to get rid of the other stuff that where we aren't supposed to be. We need to stop being there. And it's like, I don't know if you've done class number 3 of the Growth Track series, but class number 3 helps you discover your gifts. And it's basically, you give it that one swipe and you find out, okay, this is more of an area that I should be focused on. Second thing I pulled out was a little treasure box. And I had this thing from a kid. I remember this thing from when I was just a little tyke. I saved this thing. Oh man, this thing was so cool. And I filled it with all this stuff that I thought was so valuable. And I opened it up just kind of wondering what was in it, maybe a silver coin or something. And there was about 80 cents worth of pennies and stuff like that. And there was a rock. I didn't show the picture of the rock, but there's a rock there too. Declutter the things that you thought were treasures but really aren't. Young people, I throw one out here for you. Some of you are dating somebody that you thought were a treasure that's not. And it's like, you need to see if God thinks that person's a treasure or not. And it's like, no, but I'm called to help this person out of this situation, this and that. You need to find out. You need to ask your spiritual covering. Is this treasure or is this not? No, they're not seeing the treasure, just like I didn't either. Sometimes we need to declutter that. Next. When I was in 1994, I bought some rat poison. And we lived in a place way out in the country, around there where all the jungle was and stuff. And I'll tell you, we just had an infestation one time of rats. And this guy goes, yeah, this poison is great. And I put on a little piece of bread. And I'll tell you, rats were eradicated from the country after we put that stuff out. That was so powerful. I lost the vial, and so I went to go buy another one. He goes, oh yeah, it's against the law to sell that stuff. It was too strong, and it was, a little dangerous and stuff. And I was thinking, I found this thing so many years later, declutter by getting rid of the poison. Unforgiveness from 1994. And I'll tell you, I had somebody do a remodel in our house. He asked for 50% down. He worked about one day, and he left. Never came back. Guy from the church. Yeah, it kind of hurts a little more, huh? It's funny, I was looking over our house, probably the last time we're going to look at it, and I saw one of the things that guy did, and you know what? I got a feeling. You ever get a feeling? Yeah. And it's like, it made your mouth, made you like go like that with your face. 1994, baby. Still there. You find it, it's the Holy Spirit bringing it forth and saying, let it go. I said, God, I forgive that guy again. I've forgiven him before. I would forgive him again. God bless him wherever he is. He's probably in prison. Without a doubt, he's in prison, but bless him in wherever he is. Next one. I had an ice skate. We never had we don't even have ice rinks in Brazil. I'm still believing one day, declutter the dreams of becoming what you are not meant to be. Next one. Well, I had, somebody left a whole bunch of building materials that some of the stuff doesn't even fit our house anymore, but I still hang on to it. Declutter by getting rid of other people's stuff from your life. Anybody ever try to say, hey, I got too much clutter. Can you just store this at your house for a while? We do that emotionally sometimes. And some of you are worrying about stuff that you shouldn't be worrying about. It's not your family anymore. It's somebody else's thing. Let them deal with their stuff. We got enough clutter that we should be dealing with. Right? Last thing I got. Declutter by planting the seeds that you've been saving since 1989. I tried to do this. I tried to do the math. I think I had these seeds from 1989, and I still hadn't planted them. It's funny. You're feeling it, brother. I see it. I see it in your face. They probably won't even grow, right? But we were saving them. I didn't even know what to do with these things, but I still have yet to throw them away. You know, it's like I'm going to plant them in my kid's yard with them not knowing. See what I almost knocked over all the clutter right into your lap right there. You know, sometimes if we're going through all the stuff, it's easy for us to just kind of see it and pull it out. There's a song that I used to sing a long time ago that I have sung all my life when I start feeling a bit overwhelmed. Deb, you got to come and help me sing this song. We are not Sharice and Pastor Sharice and James, okay? So I'm just going to grab this mic over here. She's got one. Does anybody remember this chorus from the 70s when music was really good? Yeah. If you can you stand up, please? We're at the end. Can you, if you can, help us sing this song? I will cast
all my cares upon you. I lay
all of my burdens down at your feet. And any time that I don't know just what to do, I will cast all of my cares upon you. That song helped me. Sometimes I just feel that weight, and I would just sing, you know, that prayer, sing a song, and just speaking into life that verse. There's one last thing. You wanna go ahead and show the next slide.
So when we were going through all of this,
I would just call the prayer team up while we.
When we were going through all of our packing and boxing our stuff up, it's amazing how you don't think you're one of those people. You know, you watch those programs of hoarders and all that kind of stuff. You know, I for sure not one of those kind of people. You know, until you start going through your stuff, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I've had this since I was 14. You know, or whatever. You know, and you just keep a bunch of stuff because you think that they're important. You know, a lot of us keep stuff that is, oh, someday I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to fit into that outfit again, you know. There's so many of those things that you keep holding on to those things, and a lot of those things are just clutter. They're just junk. There's things that we're supposed to get rid of, you know, and like he was saying, so many things that we need to look and we need to say, Jesus, look in my heart. Is there unforgiveness? Is there things is there someone in my past that hurt me, and I put it in a little box. I put it in a drawer somewhere in there, and I won't give it up. And Jesus this morning, he's telling you, get that box out, take it out, throw it out, because I want to heal you and I want to do things with your life, and that's keeping you from doing the things that I want you to do. So look in your life and say, God, what's in there? You know, maybe there's fears that you're allowing to clutter your life. You're not allowing faith to come in and say, God, I'm believing you're above all of the circumstances that I'm seeing, things around me that are bringing me fear. You are above all of those things. So I take these clutters out. You know, remove these things out of my life so that I can trust you completely. You know, and so there's all these things that are bad, but one of the things, you know, I was going through some boxes and, you know, trying to make sure I'm not throwing any important documents away and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I ran into this letter that's up there. And it's from this pastor, Pastor Dick Iverson, Pastor Dick and Edie Iverson. They were pastors of ours way, way back, a long time ago. And they had gone to Brazil to visit us and saw what we were doing and stuff. And then after she went back, you know, to the States, she wrote us this letter. Just a sweet letter thanking us for a whole bunch of things. But in the letter, she says something like, Skip and Debbie, we really believe in you guys. We know God has you there in Brazil for a reason. He's working in you. He's going to work through you, and he's going to work through your children. Don't ever forget that. And I'm reading this thing, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? It just blessed me so much. I needed that. I needed to hear that. It's like, she's in heaven already. He's in heaven, you know? But years and years later, this treasure blessed my life. You know, it really touched me. And I believe there's many things in our lives that are treasures, and we need to keep those things. Those things are important. We need to be a channel of being a treasure to other people's lives, sending messages that will bless them. You know, nowadays we don't write, you know, physical letters so much and mail them. Maybe you can, but, you know, you can send a text, you can send an email, you can send something and say, you know, I'm thinking about you, I was praying for you. You know, little words of encouragement, and be a blessing, be a treasure in somebody's life. So this morning we want to pray with you, we want to believe that God's going to help you go through and say, you know, I want to declutter those things. I want to take out anything that's keeping me from being all that God wants me to be. So if you feel like there's something that God's wanting you to do, a step that you need to take, a person that you need to forgive, something, I'm going to call you up here. The prayer team's up here. They can pray for you. I want you to really say, you know, God, I want to do what you want me to do. I want to take out the things that shouldn't be in my life. And I want to be able to value the things, the treasures that you have put in my life. Amen. Close your eyes with me. Oh, precious Jesus, we're so, so thankful. Thankful, Lord, for your presence. Thankful for your love for each one of us. Oh, God, we ask you this morning that you will help us. Help us declutter our lives. Help us take out those things that shouldn't be there. Taking the focus off of you. We want you to be the center of our lives. We want you to be the focus. Oh, God, we want to sit at your feet. We want to receive from you everything that you have. Oh, God, help us. Help us to see things the way you see them. Help us to believe and to trust you. Oh, Jesus, this morning we put everything down at your feet, and we thank you. Thank you for being all that we need this morning. In your precious name, amen.